retire from the Italian Grand Prix towards the very end of the race due to an engine failure. Most F1 fans braced themselves for an absolute thriller finish that was set about due to, of course, Ricciardo's retirement, as well as the fact that a late safety car could potentially throw the race open with a 1 or 2 lap shootout towards the end. However, due to the fact that clearing Ricciardo's car from the middle of the track took so long, the race actually ended up finishing as a procession behind the safety car. Now, obviously, this has led to a lot of chatter among the paddock. People are, of course, drawing references to what happened in Abu Dhabi in the finale of the 2021 season. And people are also talking about what the rules and regulations are, and perhaps more importantly, whether or not those rules should be changing anytime soon. Hello everyone and welcome back to Sports Today. My name is Shane Reyes and today we are going to be talking about, of course, the end of the Italian Grand Prix. What is it that team principals are saying and why it is that we could very well be in for a rule change in this regard sooner rather than later. Now, obviously, a bit of background here. It is worth noting that as things stand, in fact, as the way the rules are written in Formula 1, it is okay for a race to actually end behind a safety car if towards the end of the race it happens, a safety car is put out there and they are unable to clear out the track in favor of course, raceable conditions. That, however, doesn't necessarily mean that this finish went down any less well with a lot of fans. In fact, many people complained about this finish for two simple reasons. One, why did it even happen again? And number two, if a safety car finish was within the rules, why is it that it didn't happen during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the end of the 2021 season? Remember, that was the race which handed Verstappen the World Drivers' Championship for 2021, and the main reason why it was such a controversial moment at that point was because the FIA ended up circumventing their own regulations and ensuring that the race started as a 1-lap shootout to give fans an exciting finish. However, if the regulations were followed to the letter, that race too would have finished the way this race did, behind the safety car. Naturally, there's a lot of controversy on this, but if any F1 teams are out there talking about how they want different finishes to races, and believe me, we'll get to those people talking about that in just a bit, the simple fact of the matter is the F1 teams have no one to blame but themselves for the fact that this sort of a finish happened in the Italian Grand Prix and that it happened yet again. Why exactly is that the case? Well, that's because McLaren team principal Andrea Seidel had revealed after the Italian Grand Prix that all teams actually had the option of making a change to the regulations, but they chose not to take it. This is in fact what he said. He said that the teams voted, and he's talking about the fact that there was a meeting held between Formula 1 teams, the FIA and other stakeholders, and he said very clearly that the teams voted that the regulations should stay as they have been. And as far as I can remember, every single one of the teams voted like that. We didn't come up with any better solution. Now, that in itself is a very damning indictment of where exactly it is the team stood, because you'd remember there was a lot of outcry after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, yet there was no rule change in terms of course, bringing about a change in case a late safety car came into play. And now we know why. It's because the F1 teams wanted to stick with the status quo and let things be as they are. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the case right now, because in fact, a lot of team principals have spoken about things, and in fact, we'll talk about two of the most interesting comments that have been made, which of course come from Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff and of course Red Bull Racing chief Christian Horner. Now, both of them have come on record and said interesting things, but which more or less align to the same part, that they are actually okay with the regulations being changed. Now, that is the key part, because now they are in public and they're saying that, look, we're not very happy with the way the regulations are, and so we would want for them to actually change when it comes to, of course, a safety car late on. First off, let's check in with what Toto Wolff had to say. And again, Wolff, by the way, besides this drew a lot of references to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which was, of course, to be expected, as did, of course, Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton, who we remember lost out on the World Drivers' Championship of 2021, thanks in no small part to that safety car restart in the finale of the 2021 season. Now, Toto Wolff says very clearly, he says that, the way the regulations are right now, the way the race finished was actually correct, even if it's unpopular. However, he did say that if they want to bring about these changes, you'd have to do it by actually changing the regulations and not just circumventing the rules for the sake of entertainment. A pretty clear reference to, of course, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So he says that, do you want to have a race that's finishing under greens, as in under green flags, and where racing conditions are applicable? He's saying, so you can say that it's 5 or 10 laps to the end. Let's make red flag the race and make sure that we are racing at the end. Now, the key part where he says is, if that's in the regulations, good. So he's okay with it being introduced in the regulations in the future, and he thinks that if that's the case, then it should be followed to the T. Now, obviously, that then makes you question why it is that none of the F1 teams, in fact, voted for this to take place when they met after the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. However, he isn't the only one who said something across similar lines, because Red Bull boss Christian Horner said more or less exactly the same thing, just in more forceful terms. He says that we don't want to win a race under a safety car, and that's something that we've talked about for years, that they should finish racing, that there was enough time in this case in the Italian Grand Prix to actually get the race going. Now, again, you can say that Horner is speaking from the comfort of being the victor in this case, but it is a stance that he did reiterate even after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, saying that it would have been unfair if the race finished behind a safety car. So the real question is that what exactly it is that can be done to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Well, it seems that steps are being taken in that regard, because news reports have come out that FIA President Mohammed bin Salman will in fact be chairing a meeting along with not just FIA bigwigs but also the F1 teams and other various stakeholders of the sport, and one of the things at the top of the agenda will be to ensure that such a race finish doesn't happen again. Now, of course, you'd be asking yourself, if you're a Formula 1 fan, what exactly can be proposed which would, change things? Maybe a virtual safety car period rather than an enforced race car, or better yet, if you ask me, the simpler solution would be, of course, that if there's only 5 or 10 laps left towards the end and there's an incident, it's best to red flag the race and let teams get started on a rolling start or a grid start. It makes the race much easier, and if you're talking about an element of false finish, well, how real is in fact a safety car finish anyway? All cars get bunched up and they're having to pretty much start from scratch once the safety car goes in. It's better you red flag the race, let the teams get back into, of course, the pits, then that way they can all make changes to their car if need be, particularly tires. You're starting on equal footing, you can have a rolling start to ensure it doesn't feel manufactured or doesn't feel like a grid start. That would be a better solution. Whether or not we get that solution, well, that's something that only time will tell, but what is pretty clear is that F1 is moving towards that solution, or at least some solution to ensure there's no more safety car finishes to races. And that's it from us for this latest video. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you enjoy what it is that we do, please don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment below and let us know what you think about the race finish and what needs to change. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course tap the bell icon so you know when it is we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Don't also forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and last but not least, download the SportsTech app for all of the latest breaking news updates from the world of not just F1 but sport as well. As always, I've been Shane Dias. Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you all again very soon, but bye bye for now.